These days, life often feels like one long to-do list. We keep getting things done, but somehow forget to really live. We try to move as fast as possible, but still don't feel like we are getting anywhere. And when things slow down, even just a little, it feels almost wrong. We have built this culture where speed equals success and where productivity has quietly replaced peace. But beneath all of that, something's been shifting. More and more people are feeling it. That sense that this pace just isn't working. And slowly, a new question has started to surface. What if I don't want to live like this anymore? That question is where the slow living movement began. And in this video, I want to take you through where it came from, how it has evolved, and why it still matters, maybe more than ever. Let's start at the beginning. Part 1. The origins of the slow living movement. After the Industrial Revolution, fast living became the norm. More output, more productivity, more efficiency. And by the late 20th century, the world was moving even faster. Global markets expanded, big companies grew, and convenience became everything. Supermarkets replaced small food shops. Fast food chains showed up in cities all over the world. People were told that this was progress, that faster meant better. But not everyone agreed. Some began to notice what was slipping away. Rituals, patience, community, meals that used to bring people together were now eaten in cars or on couches, barely noticed, barely tasted. Life was picking up speed, but it wasn't feeling any richer. Then came a moment in Rome that changed pretty much everything. It was 1986 and McDonald's was planning to open a restaurant at the Spanish Steps, a very beautiful historic part of Rome, the city. I visited there a few years ago and I remember how amazing the place is. You can just sit on the steps and watch people enjoy their lives. But spaces like that were exactly what people feared losing. So an Italian journalist named Carlo Petrini and a group of friends decided to protest, not with signs or shouting, but with something much more Italian: bowls of pasta. They handed them out to passers-by as a symbol. Their message was simple: we don't want fast food, we want slow food. By 1989, that simple act became something bigger. And delegates from 15 countries came together to write the Slow Food Manifesto. It wasn't just about food, it was about values, pleasure, local traditions, time, sustainability, the right to enjoy a meal without rushing through it. The manifesto apparently called fast life a virus, and looking back, it's easy to see why that line stuck. They weren't just protecting recipes, they were protecting life. The idea didn't stop there in Italy. Then years later, a group of mayors launched a project or philosophy called Cittaslow, or slow cities. These were towns that chose to move at a different rhythm. They focused on things like quiet streets, local shops, less noise, more space for walking, more time for real conversations. Their values were simple, but really powerful. Support local food, build cities for people, not cars or corporations, and protect the character of everyday life. And this idea is one of the reasons why I love Italy and Sicily so much myself. And the idea spread, first across Italy, then to other parts of Europe, and eventually beyond. It showed something important, that slowness wasn't just a personal choice. It could be a public value as well, a different way to shape the places we live. And this was the beginning of a whole movement and a new way of thinking. Part 2. How the movement evolved over time. People began asking different questions, like if slowing down makes food better, what else could it change? What about the way we travel? What about the way we dress? The way we raise kids or work or use technology? That's when slow became more than a protest. It became kind of like a lens, a way to look at modern life and say, maybe we don't need to rush through all of this. All around the world, different branches of the slow movement started to appear. slow travel became a big one, choosing quality over quantity. Not racing to visit 5 countries in 2 weeks, but spending real time in one place, getting to know it, walking instead of rushing from a landmark to landmark, actually experiencing something there instead of just checking it off a list. Slow fashion, so people buying fewer clothes but better ones, supporting smaller brands or just getting more life out of what you already owned, moving away from trends that change every 2 weeks these days and toward clothes that actually last. The same thing started happening in parenting, education, technology, each one built on the same idea. We don't need to do everything fast to do it well. And then in 2004, something happened that really helped shape the movement. Honoré released his book In Praise of Slowness. He called out what he described as the cult of speed, how almost every part of modern life was being pushed to go faster, and how that was costing us joy, health, attention, and connection. I actually have the book. I read this first time in, I think, 2018 or 2019, and I remember thinking then that he wrote this in 2004, and already he thought that things were bad. I really wonder what he thinks about our modern life today. But what stuck with me was how clearly he explained that slow doesn't mean lazy. It doesn't mean giving up. His whole message was the answer isn't to reject speed entirely, it's to use it wisely. But of course that's gotten harder, especially once smartphones, apps, and digital tools took over in the past 1 or 2 decades. Work stopped having boundaries. The expectations became that we would always be available. Emails, updates, messages, even late at night. Like everything started to blur together. There was no off switch, and the culture started to really reward the people who were always on. The ones who answered emails at 10 p.m. and the people who never took a break at work. For many, life became about managing calendars, inboxes, and deadlines, and trying to just hold it all together all the time. But then, something happened that no one really expected.
We are following new developments this morning in the coronavirus outbreak. Right now, there are at least 180 cases nationwide.
The world was forced to stop. For a while, there were no commutes, no social plans, no rush. People stayed at home, spent more time with family and pets, rediscovered hobbies, cooked, slept, took walks alone. Of course, it wasn't all peaceful and perfect. There were still Zoom meetings, stress, and uncertainty. I think we all know that. But the environment was different enough that people started to think. And many noticed that life actually feels different at this pace. What happened after that was bigger than just changing schedules. It was a shift in values. People didn't just want flexible working hours, they wanted a different kind of life, one that didn't leave them exhausted anymore. People started thinking more deeply about how they spend their time, energy, and attention, and more started asking the same question: what do I actually want my life to feel like? Part 3. What slow living looks like today in many forms. Slow living has come a long way since its early days. What began with food and small towns has grown into something much broader, something flexible, personal, and deeply human. At its core, slow living isn't about where you live or how much you slow down. It's a mindset before it's a specific lifestyle, at least in my opinion. A way of approaching your days with more presence, more intention, and more care. You can live slowly in a small apartment in the city, a quiet village, a mobile home, or a family house full of kids. What matters isn't where you are or who you are, it's what you value and how you live. It's about doing the right things at the right pace, not rushing what doesn't need to be rushed. There's actually a term for this in music, tempo giusto, the right tempo. Not too fast, not too slow, being present in what you are doing. And because it's so adaptable, slow living can look different for everyone. So instead of one single definition, maybe it's easier to picture slow living through the small choices people make every day, in cities, in homes, in families, and in themselves. Let's look at some of those forms. In cities, slow living is about creating calm inside a busy world. It might look like walking or cycling instead of always driving, taking a little longer to get somewhere and enjoying the walk instead of trying to get it over with. It's about giving yourself time between things, between meetings, errands, social plans, and it's also about finding nature in small ways, like having balcony plants, morning light through the window, a bench in a quiet park. Tiny moments that remind you that you are part of something bigger. Digital slow living. This one has become more important than ever. It's about choosing intentionally your inputs, what apps, media, notifications, or content you actually want in your life. Making time for screen-free routines like reading or winding down at night. It's not about quitting technology completely, it's about using it on your own terms. Slow mornings, slow dinners, maybe even cleaning as a mental reset. It's doing things with care instead of rushing through them. Cooking, folding laundry, doing these things with more calm, with more presence. You have maybe heard of the hygge, the Danish word for cozy simplicity. There are candles, warm drinks, time together. That's exactly what this means. So it's not just about like design, it's about the atmosphere, the environment, the vibes. It's about noticing small comforts and making them part of your day. For some people like me, slowness is most natural outdoors. It's the rhythm of a quiet walk, the shift in light across the sky, the sound of leaves in the forest, the stillness of a frozen lake in winter, or cold air on your skin. Nature has its own timing. It doesn't rush, it doesn't multitask. It moves with the seasons and invites you to do the same. And of course, slow living doesn't disappear when life gets full. In fact, it becomes even more important. In families, it's about protecting presence even in the chaos. It's choosing steady rhythms over packed schedules, creating space for real connection during meals, during rest, during play, and showing children that stillness isn't something to feel guilty about. This really reminds me of my early 20s when I lived in Greece. The coffee culture there really influenced me. One coffee could last 2 hours with the family. Like, not because people were lazy, but because they made space to enjoy, reflect, and talk about life with their loved ones. Part 4. Why slow living matters now more than ever. The slow living movement has grown a lot, and still today it continues to speak to something real, something more and more people are feeling. Because even now, after everything that we have experienced, the pace of life hasn't truly changed. Work still rewards speed, and the pressure to keep up is always there somewhere in the background. You wake up and jump straight into your notifications, your social media, your smartphone. You spend your day multitasking through work, meals, and errands. You try to wind down at night, but you cannot fall asleep because your mind is still racing. I'm sure many people know this. Recent studies show it clearly. More than 60% of people working in technology say they are burned out. And in a global survey, 68% of adults said they feel overwhelmed every single day, not sometimes, daily. And that's exactly why slow living matters now more than ever. Because in a world that keeps asking for more, choosing enough is one of the most powerful things you can do. It helps you pause, reset, reconnect with what matters to you. The chance to live a life that actually feels like your own. And of course, it is not perfect. You will still have busy days. You will still feel pulled in different directions. You will still forget to slow down. But slow living doesn't mean getting it perfect every time. It's about coming back to yourself over and over again. It's remembering that you are a human being, not a human doing. Thank you so much for watching. Remember to stay kind and meaningful in your own beautiful journey. See you in the next one.